outlets that I know these tweets from Project Veritas.
CNN says like they want to portray the contrast, but really it's partly because like conflict is what sells. Nobody wants to hear 1 minute canned statements.
Gotcha. So, makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's
right. Create clicks, get more money. Create clicks, get more money.
All we gotta do is take an anchor and put them at the desk and tell the news. We're so busy trying to get appointment viewership. We don't, even though we're totally left-leaning, we don't want to admit it.
When Zucker took over, it wasn't until Trump that we ended up being all Trump all the time.
It's the Trump network. It's like everything is Trump. They're not even thinking about anybody else. They sold themselves to the devil. It's sad because there's so much news going on out there, but they don't cover it.
Oh, it's not
All
money.
they do is because the sponsors want to pay.
So it's all about the money.
It's always all about the money. It's a corporation.
We could be so much better than we are. Well, and you learn that in journalism school. We're supposed to be middle of the road. That's our job. Now it's just infotainment. That's all it's become. There is no true media news outlet.
You know, one of the tapes, Patrick, he was like almost 30-year veteran. He basically said the same thing that I'm saying here, like, hey, we used to be the best and we used to report news.
We used to cover news. We used to go out and do stories. This is a story that's not going to go away.
Oh, the Ukraine thing? Or just Trump in general?
Trump in general. The only way this will go away is when he dies. Hopefully soon.
The motto that CNN put out earlier this year, the facts first, that's what I want the news to be. That's what it should be. That's what it used to be.
Now it's just infotainment. That's all it's become.
When Zucker took over, it wasn't until Trump that we ended up being all Trump all the time.
We used to cover news. We used to go out and do stories.
Create clicks, get more money.
When a story of this magnitude comes up, you should do it and say, you're out of your mind.
They sold themselves to the devil.
Next year, CNN turns 40. At their launch in 1980, they were the first and only 24-hour all-news network. Today, our CNN insider, Kerry Porch, says CNN went from all news all the time to what his co-workers describe as no news anytime.
I'm not super thrilled with what we do on our air anymore. 95. 95. I've been here for a little while. So I really hate seeing what we were and what we could be and what we've become. It's just awful.
I want to chase the facts. Like the motto that CNN put out earlier this year, the facts first, that's what I want the news to be. That's what it should be. That's what it used to be. And that's all I want to do with coming forward is I want CNN and any other outlet to basically return to what they once were, where, hey, we tune in to get our facts, we can make up our minds left, right, center, whatever, cool, and we go on with our lives. I don't want anyone to basically, be spun into believing or programmed into believing one way or the other. That's not what I'm about, and that's why I'm coming forward.
Patrick Davis, CNN's manager of field ops, has been at the network for 25 years. He longs for the good old days.
We could be so much better than we are. And the buck stops with him. And we've had other I've been through so many presidents now. Some that are just so hands off that you don't even hear from them for a month. You know what I mean? He's involved every day, has a plan, whatever. I just don't agree with him.
Davis is not alone. Many of his colleagues echo his concerns how they used to cover news.
This is a story that's not going to go away.
Oh, the Ukraine thing? Or just Trump in general?
Trump in general. The only way this will go away is when he dies. Hopefully soon.
So crazy, dog. I mean, no disrespect to CNN because it's who they are now. But when I got this job 13 years ago, CNN was nothing like this.
They were just, news, right? Just straight up just news. What is it now?
It's the Trump network, dog. It's like everything is Trump. They're not even thinking about anybody else. They sold themselves to the devil. It's sad because there's so much news going on out there, but they don't cover it.
Oh, it's not
All
money,
they do
right?
is Because the sponsors want to pay.
Or novel idea, we could let the news people decide the news and have the executives stay out of it.
It's never going to happen.
And the most powerful executive is CNN's president, Jeff Zucker. Our insider secretly recorded a number of CNN's 9 a.m. editorial calls where Zucker unapologetically set the anti-Trump agenda for his executive producers and managers.
The border, the New York Times reporting, and the excerpts from Shears and Davis, the book Border Wars. Trump suggested shooting migrants in the legs in order to slow them down after they cross the southern frontier. He also called for a shutdown of the entire U.S.-Mexico border. And straight out of medieval lore, Trump suggested he wanted to build a water-filled trench stocked with snakes or alligators, prompting aides to seek a cost estimate. And embattled DHS Secretary Kevin McAleenan. I don't think we should move on so quickly from that story.
I missed it. What was it? The snakes and the alligators.
I agree that the DHS head saying that he's lost control of his agency is actually a really good and important story. However, I don't think that we should move on from shooting migrants at the border in the legs and considering having, alligators and snakes in the boat. Come on. It's like, you forget the hot boiling fish. I know. So, my point here is, I know there's 7,000 impeachment stories, and I'm the one saying we should just stay on impeachment. But when a story of this magnitude comes up, and you can objectively say, you're out of your mind, you should do it and say, you're out of your mind.
Zucker is saying, report the story because, quote, you can objectively say about Trump, quote, you're out of your mind, unquote.
So within minutes from it coming from Jeff's mouth, it goes across the business. And I turned around and watched one of the hundreds of TVs on the floor, and I saw Joe Johns at the White House, covering the White House, and right on the chyrons, alligators and moats.
Joe, is the White House denying this happened?
Well, they haven't said too much, but there's a lot going on.
Patrick Davis says there was a time he used to listen to CNN's editorial rundown calls, but now he sees no point.
I haven't listened to 9 a.m. call in about 15 years.
Okay.
I just stopped.
Well, you obviously know what you're doing at this point, too.
I can't listen to it.
Yeah,
it's all bullshit. It's all just a bunch of bullshit. And I wish that wasn't the case. You know what I mean?
Davis believes the problem with CNN is their lack of transparency when it comes to their political leanings. He says while they portray themselves as middle of the road, it couldn't be further from the truth.
All they gotta do is take an anchor and put them at the desk and tell the news. They're so busy trying to get appointment viewership. If you're just regular day in, day out telling the news, you're not going to compete with Fox or MSNBC because we don't, even though we're totally left-leaning, we don't want to admit it.
You have Jeff Zucker, is what it basically comes down to Zucker.
What does that mean?
It means that it leans left, probably, because of Zucker.
Stuff that we used to cover news. We used to go out and do stories. We used to cover shit. We would have sent a crew on that Honduras plane that crashed last weekend. We would have sent a crew down there because it was for Americans. Trump is more important than any real world stuff, right?
What's crazy to me is Obama was caught on camera
with the Russian thing, right?
Yes. Wait till I get into office and I have more room to negotiate. I have more flexibility, and I'm going, holy shit! I'm going,
and I voted for the man.
but then Trump's getting hammered for twisting an arm. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. He has survived everything up to this point.
Crazy, right?
Bill Clinton survived getting his stuck under a table.
Whatever.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My guess is the House is crazy enough to go through with it, and they're starting it.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to do this from a holier-than-thou perspective, like, oh, he abused his power, and also, like, these assholes, so 500 assholes up there abuse power every day. They do this shit every freaking day.
For 30 years.
What he was doing was nothing compared to what these assholes are doing on a daily basis, right?
Davis says CNN is also sensationalizing the news. He says the recent coverage of Hurricane Dorian is a clear example.
So I go down to Florida, and I'm there days before the storm ever comes.
Just talking about the most recent one, the Dorian.
Dorian, yeah.
And when we were supposed to hang out last time.
So I'm down there, and I'm watching all the locals. The locals are like, everyone chill out. It's going to come close to the coast. We're going to have maybe some 100-mile-an-hour winds. It's going to turn up the coast. Like they're 90% sure. They basically were taking a deep breath on the whole thing, and a lot more.
Yeah.
Then you turn on CNN 2 seconds later, and Chad Myers, they're like, oh my God, the world's going to end. Get your life rafts. Like, it was just crazy. I'm just like, and you try to explain that to people, and it just makes us look like a caricature of ourselves.
Yeah.
When SNL goes on and makes fun of us, they're pretty spot on,
And CNN as a whole, look, I like the network. I like overall what they stand for. I think they've lost their way in a little bit with all the Trump stuff.
We could fire half, not that I ever say fire people, but
yeah, I get you.
We don't need to have shows being produced. I mean, some of these shows, like the Axe Files, this thing that only airs like once a month, the thing costs like a fortune to make.
Oh, really? Like
it's insane.
Is it just graphics or?
It's crap. It's like it's David Axelrod interviewing B players. You know what I mean? And they did that. They hired him to do this because they're hoping they're going to get the first Obama interview.
It used to be. It was kind of boring. It was very like CNN. I'm not saying CNN is boring.
I get
but it was
you.
very like packages, and it was really just straight news.
Just straight up news, right?
Yeah, there wasn't as much opinion in panel, and the same people. It was interviews. It was lots of foreign leaders, which was very cool.
That was cool.
Really enjoyed that. We got to hear a lot more from the world. When Zucker took over, it wasn't until Trump that we ended up being all Trump all the time. He was very. He liked the panels.
Okay.
It did sort of jazz it up.
He basically said, all the other stories.
I mean, essentially, not verbatim, but paraphrasing. But it blew my mind that we have this huge apparatus, and hey, screw all the other stuff. We need to divert all our resources to here.
But we have so many resources that could do other stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's all about the money.
It's always all about the money. It's a corporation.
Instead of reporting the news, our insider believes CNN at times manufactures conflict, which leads to more clicks and generates CNN's revenue.
Well, because think about it, like I said, media, their purpose is to create, essentially they would say to tell the news, but in the process sometimes they try to create the news by either focusing on congressmen that have issues with the president and then trying to force the president to give a response to it.
Sure.
Making sure the top of the rundowns are always that one big feud, and that's rah 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 rah. Exactly. And
it's interesting.
Well, it's to provoke conflict because conflict drives clicks. For example, Vice President Biden. So you said this and this and this about your healthcare policy. Kristen Gillibrand criticized your policy. How do you respond to Senator Gillibrand?
Yeah, something like that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's not on accident, right?
It's not an accident because, CNN says they want to portray the contrast, but really it's partly because conflict is what sells. Nobody wants to hear 1 minute canned statements.
Gotcha.
So,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Create clicks, get more money.
Is that taught in journalism school now?
I didn't even go to journalism school. It's called common sense school.
True, absolutely, like street smarts.
Well, and you learn that in journalism school. We're supposed to be middle of the road. That's our job. Now it's just infotainment. That's all it's become. There is no true media news outlet.
What do you think CNN needs to do to reform this behavior?
Go back to their original mission. Where Patrick and Garber and all the other old guard people say what it used to be, and where news where this people of all political stripes came just to report the news, where we would tune in on airports and hotels and everything to it's got the red CNN In the TV, it's 100% accurate. We can trust it. There's no bias underneath it. It's got the red CNN letters. It's truth.
Kerry Porch had the courage to come forward, wear a camera, and expose CNN's bias. We live in a precarious time, and we need more people like Kerry to come forward. If you're on the inside of a big media organization or big tech or government and see something wrong, be brave. Do something. Wear a camera. Contact us at veritastips@protonmail.com. And stay tuned, because there's more Inside CNN coming.